Our first guests are from the New Zealand Merino Company. We're talking on a number of different things, but they have opened their doors for the first time to new investors in a bid to raise $12.6 million to ensure the company is well capitalised to weather the post-COVID storm. New Zealand Merino shareholders adopted a new constitution at the annual meeting last month, removing the restrictions around share ownership to growers and employees. And we're joined by John Brakenridge, CEO for New Zealand Merino, out of Christchurch. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us as we sort of start to wrap out the year. It has been one hell of a year. This capital raising isn't just to plug any holes from COVID, I hope. It's also about taking New Zealand Merino to the next level.
Yeah, hi Sarah, and good evening listeners. I mean, it is. You really have to turn the clock back sort of 6-9 months ago when it was all unfolding. And I think at that time, the prudent thing that a lot of companies were doing was saying, let's just shore ourselves up, which is what we did. And let's also be, for twofold, just because it's smart to be conservative, but on the other side was around opportunity. And as things have rolled out now, it's very much in the opportunity space that capital raise is gearing itself for. So yeah, it's partway through, another few weeks to go, but it's really for growth and opportunity at the moment.
Can we talk about some of the changes to the appointments on the board, where you've farewelled the wonderful Ruth Richardson with new chair Kate Morrison and brought onto the board Dr. John Leyland Pinot, known for his founding of Sinlay, and Ben Todhunter, who I know has been a director on many companies here in New Zealand. Can you give us a bit of your thoughts on the skill sets and networks that those new directors and chair will bring to the table?
Well, yes, firstly, an acknowledgement of Ruth. She's a force of nature. She's been amazing on the board. She's really brought so much. But as she hands the baton over, Kate Morrison has got a wealth of experience. She's been there and she's been leading us through the capital raise, and she's just has been fantastic. And bringing in the fresh energy, and then someone like John Leyland Pinot with his, there's so many aspects of John that I like. He's got a real empathy for agriculturalists. He really wants to make a difference. He's got a proven track record of being commercially smart. We've just had our first strategy session with the new leadership of Kate. And Ben Todhunter, and of course Ben is very much linked through and anchored into the high country, into the merino. So it's this wonderful combination of this next step up for the company and for our contribution, making a difference for the growers.
Okay, so a couple of areas there about making a difference. One of them is, of course, the wool incubation concept that you've had there in Victoria Street in Christchurch at the headquarters. And I got the pleasure of meeting Logan Williams, who's based there. How incredible that he's in the Forbes 30 under 30 list, and by the tender age of 25, as a serial investor, having sold 4 of his innovations, that we have him super passionate about bringing innovation to wool.
Yeah, and isn't it, I think it's just so important we as a wool industry are projecting ourselves in the positive sense that it should be, so that we can attract people like Logan. I mean, we've got one of his product series, he's extruding this corn waste and wool into now producing this cup, and it's I don't know if the listeners can see it, but it's got the real texture of wool. It's whole new innovative uses, and as a replacement for plastics at a time when the world is wanting to move away from plastics, it's just incredible to have that sort of energy and smarts on board. And I think, someone like him, he could have been attracted to so many different industries, but it's quite cool that he's been attracted to wool, and as you say, into this incubator space that we've set up here.
It's interesting. We had Craig Carr, our CEO for Carfields, on the show last night, talking around the New Zealand Natural Fibres Company. And as you just said there, a waste product from the corn industry. With also New Zealand Merino moving into strong wool, is it time for a name change, do you think, to the company?
I don't know. I mean, it's people don't really seem to mind so much. I think it's a nod to the legacy, and we want to keep that legacy front and central. We've got to know where we've come from, even though we've got these ambitions into new areas. So no, we're pretty comfortable about it, and frankly, our strong wool growers, they like and they respect the history of where the company's come from.
I know that you are extremely passionate about utilising the experience and team that you have at New Zealand Merino to work on the problems of the strong wool industry. We had Rob Hewitt on the show the other day speaking around the SWAG Group's raising of funds. But to be fair, John, the government's contribution to the SWAG Action Group is a small pittance in the PGP funding, the Primary Growth Partnership funding that New Zealand Merino got for what is named the Wolves Unleashed W3 program to do that, roll out over 7 years, your initiatives. So realistically, the strong wool industry that operates outside of New Zealand Merino might be very envious to know on the numbers of dollars, millions of dollars that you have got. So I think it's only fair that you provide us with a bit of an update on the successes and that it has flown through the industry.
Oh, and I'd love to. So far away.
So, I mean, let's talk about the reporting on that. Where is it at, and how come we haven't had some reports on that for the last wee while?
Well, there should be. We've been reporting back through media and so forth. We've had independent audits happen, and those should be part of the standard MPI reporting. So that'll be there, but I'm happy just to talk about some of those areas because it's been anchored in a number of initiatives, and if I go into those initiatives, it was around what we call the blue ocean space. So that's into these new innovative uses for wool, like you've been talking about with Logan. It's going into the other areas that you've seen. I mean, how we've worked with the Glarop shoe here. What you've seen with the surfboard initiative, new areas around acoustics. There's a wide range of activities that we've gone into in what we call the blue ocean space. In the red ocean space, which is what can we do with strong wool, around 12 months ago we wrote a report through to Cavalier, and just by way of example, and of course, you've seen what is rolled out there. There's been, they've now gone to 100% strong wool. They've come in with long-term contracts, emulating what has happened in fine wool, and those are now coming through and being rolled out. We've also got a number of other contracts that will be rolling out and have rolled out, again, through the likes of Glarup's. What we've always said from the start was you can try and bring reform by some big bang, or you can have a nucleus of reform. And I think it's really important, Sarah, that we talk about that philosophical approach. So we've pulled together many of the who's who of pastoral farming. We've got them. They are voluntarily making a financial commitment through their marketing and innovation fee. From that, we are building out a supply base, and from that, we are taking what we've learned in the merino and applying that through into contracts and linkages. So not only does the promotion and innovation occur, but it can be brought back by way of contracts through to the growers. So that's a snapshot of some of those areas. Social license was another area. We've gone hard in leadership around regen, having a look at that. Defining it so others don't define around it, and extension into other primary sector areas.
Okay, with a lot of innovation in wool, primarily it's not going to be about the per kilo model anymore when there is so many unique uses for it. That is not necessarily about how many rolls of carpet we can do or how many garments we can produce. When you're starting to get down to combining it with other products such as the cornstarch invention, etc., the opportunities with keratin, it seems to me that there needs to be some form of different model. And is there any thing on the horizon whereby growers can invest right through the value chain rather than just at the farm gate?
Yeah, it's a good idea, and some of these new inventions that we're bringing out, case in point here, the likes of where Logan is, wouldn't that be a pretty good option if people can invest and growers can invest and they can share in the upside? And of course, we've spoken about the constitution change. We've removed some of the constraints for people to be able to invest in the company, for strongwool growers to be able to invest in the company now. And as I mentioned before, nevertheless very anchored about from the origins of where we've come from merino. So, in fact, it was interesting. Last week we held a strongwool meeting up in Hawke's Bay. And we were thinking it would be a small size, and it was actually bursting at the seams, and we called it time for disruption, because if ever there is an industry that's in need of disruption, it's that industry. And so we had a fantastic discussion. We're now rolling that out and actually building up our supply base too. So I agree with you. New ways of looking at new structures, new ways of capturing value, all of that's on the table with our W3 initiative.
John, lastly, because maybe our last catch up prior to Christmas and the New Year, what does next year look like for New Zealand Merino? If
anything, it's an amplification of what we've been doing. The merino fine wool side, the natural fibres, yes, from a commodity side, and some of the brands, they took a bit of a hit this year, but what's really starting to escalate again now. So how do we double it down on that? How do we get the initiatives, the wind in their sails, coming into strong wool? Look at Swan Dry here. They're around 40% up on their sales this time last year. So for us, it's a matter of really scaling what we've been doing, and hence, the likes of the capital raise. So high levels of energy, and a team that's just rearing to go, but in need of a bit of a break too.
Good to hear. I'm glad to hear those words. Hey, thank you so much for taking the time to join us now and in the previous shows, John. It's always a pleasure to have you on Sarah's Country. I know that you're an extremely busy man, so thank you very, very much, and have a wonderful Christmas and New Year. Now, of course, sorry.
Thanks, Sarah, and congratulations to you and what you've brought to the rural community with your program, and it's great that there's so many listeners who are so tuned into you.
Oh, thank you so much, John. Really appreciate it. And of course, all of the stories on farmersweekly.co.nz. Annette Scott follows wool like a bull by the horns. She absolutely lives and breathes it. And Annette Scott, a reporter there for Farmers Weekly.
This is Sarah's Country.